Hello, everyone. Welcome to another day and episode on LATOKEN VCTV, where we discuss trends and issues around the globe with our invited panelists from all around the world. My name is Oluwatomi Nathaniel Amida, and I'm hosting out of Lagos, Nigeria. And today we have a full house with me. I'd like the introduction to start from JD. JD, please introduce yourself to the audience. Let them know where you are calling from and a little bit about yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me on this. My name is JD. I am the founder and CEO of Trucking.com. We are based out of Middle East, and we are a truck
Hello, should I
logistics
make the introduction?
aggregator.
Sorry.
We are a truck
Please,
logistics aggregator operating out
Hello.
of UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan, and providing services to 12 to 13 countries in the Middle East and Pakistan.
thank you very much for that, JD. Thanks for the introduction. I think from there, we'll go next to Harsh. Harsh, please introduce yourself to the audience.
Hello everyone, glad to be back. Glad to have some good familiar faces as well as some new faces today as well. So, short introduction about myself. My name is Harsh Shetia. I'm the founder of Startup Hackers. It's an early stage Facebook group where we kind of help startups grow their business from the initial stages, right? Right from the idea conceptualization stage to the MVP stage to the growth stage, right? We kind of help them and groom them at that level. Additionally, I'm also a venture partner with our ventures, where I'm helping startups raise funds all the way up to $10 million for them. Primarily, the focus is in the Southeast Asia and the Middle East side. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Harsh. Next, we'll go to Anuj. Anuj, thanks for coming. Give the audience a little bit background of yourself.
Sure, mate, and good to be back. Thank you so much for having me again. So, quickly introducing myself, my name is Anand Chauhan. I am the founder of Yellow Sapphire Technologies. Uh, a quick background: I've been a startup founder for almost a decade now. I've started 3 startups in the past. Uh, at present, at Yellow Sapphire, we are working with other upcoming early stage startups, helping them out, figure out their business model, getting right their technological architecture and infrastructure, along with helping them strategize in their go-to-market strategy, in their corporate strategy as well. Back to you, mate.
Excellent. Thanks for that. Next, Adrian. I know you're in a busy place, but just go ahead, introduce yourself to the audience, and let them know where you are.
Hello, everybody. I hope that there's not a lot of noise around me. I'm at ABC in Dubai, actually, along with Sony and also Valentin. I met him during the last, the first evening of the event. I believe it's the biggest crypto in-person event happening right now in the world, which is very important. So the physical events are coming back. I'm Edu Niculescu, serial entrepreneur and investor. My genius areas are sales, marketing, and business development. Besides board membership slots and advisory roles, I'm involved with the post-blockchain currency CloudCoin, the decentralized autonomous organization DAO1, the startup accelerator Faster Capital, venture company Start Global Ventures UK, and also I'm a mentor in Virgin Startups program. Okay, happy to be here. Exciting topic today. Thank you and sorry for the noise around me. It's a unidirectional mic, but it's not perfect. I'm in a
It's
lobby.
okay. It's okay.
Thank you.
We forgive you, and we understand the situation. Thanks for being here. Next, Frederick, please give the audience a little bit background about yourself.
Yeah, hi there, and good to meet you all and to the whole audience. My name is Fredrik Samwall. I usually live in London. I work very globally. I'm right now in Sweden due to the COVID situation. I am, like Adrian, serial entrepreneur and investor, and I've done a number of exits. So I do actually have availability for really good growth companies who might be listening to this one in terms of advising. So that's a short about myself. So 3 exits this year. So I'm up for what's next.
Excellent. There's a lot to learn from you. Being that the topic we're discussing today is about growth, and look forward to that. Thanks, guys, for the brief introduction. And if you're joining us live, we are live on Facebook, Twitter, we're live on YouTube, and we are also live on LinkedIn. You can be part of today's show by simply dropping a comment in any social media. I get to see it and put the questions through to our audience. Be part of this show, share with friends, share with family. And Rama Udistra from Facebook says, good project. Thank you for that, Rama. We're looking for more comments, more feedback, and more questions as the show goes on. So today, we have the topic, how should a startup founder look at growth? Now, startups have a tough time understanding the growth. And today, we will be discussing the importance of growth in building a self-sustaining business and try to understand better how valuable this metric is. So the first question I have today is, compared to having many other things in your business, like a great product, great sales and marketing team, why should growth be an important metric for any business or startup? And I'd like to start with JD. If you can go with that. Yeah. Why is growth such an important metric?
Thanks for the question. From my perspective, look, growth for any business is a revalidation of how scalable the business is, right? In terms of if the business cannot show that they can grow in there, whether it's in their existing market, whether that means with the further penetration or whether with the scaling of the business, it kind of would define how big of the target market that they are going after, right? And what kind of resources and business model do you have to justify whether you are able to grow or not. So I think growth is absolutely an important metric. But the way I look at growth for our business, for example, is it a sustainable growth? Is it just a artificial growth by subsidizing certain elements of the business, which is going to only support in the short run? Versus, is this really a long-term sustainable growth? Will make a big difference in terms of the quality of growth which I look at. So I look at the quality of growth and I define that as a sustainable growth. And this is absolutely an important metric because that really defines the potential opportunity of how big of a business we can build.
Excellent. Thank you for that, JD. Anuj, I'd like to pick your thoughts on that. How important is growth as a metric?
Let me put it this way. While working on one of my early startups back in 2012, we were growing at almost 100% in our revenue on a month-on-month basis. But after almost 14 months into our operation, we had a complete stagnation. There is always that glass ceiling. There's always so much market you can capture. So growth is that one metric that's telling you when you're about to hit that glass ceiling. Of course, let's realize this one thing. Any addressable market that's out there is going to be huge. We are living in a world where any product that's going live right now has an addressable market that's in hundreds of million at the least. But you can't capture that entire you can't capture that entire market. It can never be a monopoly where you have the 100% share of that market. So growth as a metric is one thing which is keeping you aware where my glass ceiling is. At the same time, as you realize, as your numbers, as your growth number starts to sort of reach that saturation point, it's giving you that hint that it's now time to add more services. When your growth is not going any further, that means you're not inventing enough. That means you're not adding more people under your product or under your company. There's this one very important lesson that I was taught back in 2016, which I think is probably the best thing I've learned in my work experience. When you build a product, it's sort of like an umbrella. You can only have a certain number of people under it. Growth is telling you how many people are joining you under that umbrella. But once it's full, you don't have the capacity, you don't have the ability to add more people. At that point in time, the only option that's available to you is not to expand the ground, but to expand the umbrella. And that expansion of the umbrella is a sort of where you look at other services that could be tangible to your current business and sort of take back that growth, take back that acceleration that coming into your business. So that's my take on it, mate. Back to you.
Yeah, lovely. Very interesting insight. Innovation. I picked innovation there, and it's something very few people know how to do. Adrian, please, your thoughts on this question.
I would say first you need to have a profitable system in order to scale it. It's like with advertising. If you are doing Facebook marketing, if you can put $1 and to get back, is just as an example, to get back, let's say, $1.2 in 30 days, you can scale this as long as the market permits. You can do the same with $100, with $1,000. I believe everybody entrepreneur wants growth, just that not everybody is happy to pay the price to create first a system which could be scaled in a profitable manner. We see a lot of startups which are burning money like crazy. They look good on paper, but if they don't receive all the time new money from investors, they crash. I don't like these models. Of course, it's an applicable model for a while. I like the strategies which I'm calling strategies for any weather. So no matter in the economy which season is or what type of weather is outside, somehow to to be able to survive and also to thrive. So first, you need to have this profitable system, even if it's a basic one or a system to use people and to have is called the job load to be proper, before hiring more people. So if the job load is low, let's say if people are using 30% of the time for business and the rest on Facebook is not good. The job load needs to be optimal, and after you could start hiring more people for more positions and really to expand. I said everybody wants expansion, but there is a little bit of work here, sometimes smart but also hard, to be able to scale something which is sustainable for all the stakeholders in the project.
Thank you very much, Adrian. You said something about profitable systems and self-sustaining models, and I think that's important in the early stages. Like you said, it's important for creators not to just depend on investors pumping money and running out this cash until the next round. And you have something there. I'll come back to that later. Harsh, what's your thoughts on how important growth is in your own line of business?
Got it. So first and foremost, I'll kind of differentiate what growth is compared to sales and revenue, right? So people typically think, growth refers to growth in sales or growth in revenue or growth, that is the basic assumption of growth, right? But that's not exactly growth. Growth is kind of the underlying fuel which kind of helps to increase in sales and revenue. That's the fundamental difference between sales and growth. So that's what one needs to understand, right? So for example, if you look at Facebook, what a normal person would think that any company's growth metric would be sales, right? The top line, how much revenue are they getting? But for Facebook, that's not the case. For them, the biggest metric for them is the DAU, the daily average users, or the MAU, the monthly average users. That's the essential growth metric, or what we call it in growth hacking, the North Star metric. That is what it is for Facebook. Likewise for Amazon, for them their North Star is what is how many times the customer buys in a year. So if the customer buys 4 times a year, 5 times a year, or 10 times a year, that is how they get the money back of the money that they've put in investing. Coming back to Adrian's point, if you put $1 in and you're getting $2 out at the end of it, that's what they look after, right? So the lifetime value of the customer for an Amazon customer, what they look at is in a year how many times is the customer buying from us. That is how they kind of recover their money. It's not from the single purchase but from the multiple purchases, right? So that is what the essence of growth is, to identify that one metric which has direct relevance to the revenue numbers of the company, right? So that is what one needs to understand, and that's why it's extremely important to thoroughly understand and analyze your business and identify what that North Star metric is going to be for your business, so you can work on that and kind of build on that as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that, Harsh. Throw some light into it. Frederick, same question. What's your thought on how important growth is?
Well, from my point of view, starting from an ego point of view as an investor, growth, that keeps my attention and gets my interest, obviously. And think about it more thoroughly. Growth in itself attracts money. It's desirable, and also if you can show the growth path, you're much more likely to actually raise funds if that's something you're looking for as a founder, owner. So the speed of growth can also create a moat. If you're first to market, or if you combine ideas, or if, for example, you're moving in the crypto space, any kind of thing that can create a moat and differentiate yourself often is linked to how fast you can grow. But like Adrian said as well, it needs to be sustainable. So I really like also to, when you increase sales, it needs to be profitable as soon as possible. Furthermore, sometimes it's better to grow by selling and not by raising money. It's very often the case that founders are more interested to look for external big chunks of money than to actually grow the fundamentals in the business: sales, marketing, operations, staff, talent, all of those things. So I love growth, but it's also often brings great stage growth pains. So when you increase the headcount, all of a sudden that brings problems. When you have too many customers in too short time frame, that creates problems. But you can preempt that as well. So good luck with the growth. That's me.
Yeah, thanks, Frederick. And I'd still like to ask you the next question. From an entrepreneur's point of view, how should they approach the idea of ensuring growth is part of their business model? How do they approach this and execute this at the beginning or later on in their business?
So from my point of view, what is most important is really, if you do create a business, that you have got something which is actually desirable to buy. So with the end customer in mind, that is really where the fundamentals start. So can you sell what you plan to do? So even before you maybe even launch a company, test sell the product. And when you've proven that you can sell 1, 2, 5, 10 of whatever it is, now you actually have more of a company. And then from there onwards, it gets more interesting. But many people build a company in the wardrobe, offline, not engaging with the market. And that's a huge danger, because you don't know ultimately if you can sell. And many founders are afraid of selling, which is unfortunately essential.
Thank you very much, Frederick. I'd like to jump over to Anuj. Anuj, earlier on, you said something about most businesses wait till they reach a glass ceiling, and then they are forced to innovate to ensure growth is progressing. What can an entrepreneur do do they have to always wait to get to the glass ceiling, and how can they approach the conundrum?
That's the whole point, mate. You don't know where the glass ceiling is. You don't know at what point you are gonna become stagnant, and that's why it's sort of not a one day job that, oh, I am not growing today, let me innovate. It's sort of a constant cycle. As Harsh mentioned, that for Facebook, the growth metric is in terms of their daily active users. So keeping that close eye, realizing when you're using analytics, realizing when you're using business intelligence tools, you gotta make sure that you're watching all your numbers closely, and you're watching the numbers that matter to your business. What's growth, what numbers matter is going to be different for everyone. Post-COVID era is going to be, or the 2020 decade and beyond, is going to be the decade of gig economy, not just in terms of people's employment, but also in terms of business as well. You have companies like Uber Eats, Zomato, you have companies that are working as the Uber for X model has sort of reached out to every sector possible. There is sort of that gig worker economy going into hospitality, into retail. And that's why these tools, these analytics, all of these numbers sort of have to mean different things to different people. So identifying what's the key metric for your point, or what's the key number you have to keep an eye on your in your business, and making sure you don't wait for that glass ceiling to show up. Gotta keep aiming for that brass ring, mate. Keep flying high, keep breaking that ceiling. Ultimately, if you have planned your contingency, you can be sure that you have some extra rocket fuel with you. So back to you.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Anuj. JD, I'd like to pick your head on this question that we're facing now. I mean, an entrepreneur faces growth. What's your thoughts on that? Do they wait till they get to glass ceiling, or how do we constantly stay innovative without being stagnant?
Look, I would agree with what my fellow panelists have mentioned, that the speed of growth creates the moat. So for us, as an example, I mean, we are now present in 3 countries, serving 12 countries. We had a very conscious option of whether we go deeper into the same country and grow there, versus we expand into multiple countries and increase our geographical reach, which sometimes creates the moat. Every businesses are different. I think every businesses are unique in nature. Sometimes certain businesses, your barriers to entry is low, but barriers to scale is very high, just like in our kind of business. I would say, as Anuj was mentioning about, the Uberizing of various industries are happening. I mean, we are in the trucking business, which is very similar to what, loosely put, is kind of known as Uber for trucks, right? But the barriers to entry in a lot of these businesses, even if, for example, Zomato or someone wants to start a local delivery, they can, right? They can just pick up the 4 lanes around their area and start delivering in 4 bikes. But can they really scale to the level of what other companies have been able to achieve? And I think that creates the secret sauce or that mode, which Frederick was also mentioning about, right? So my view is about each businesses are unique. Sometimes you need to go deeper before going wider. In our case, we wanted to do both of them in parallel because there's a clear advantage for us going horizontally, expanding into many countries while building the sustainable levels of growth. And one more thing I would like to point out: the more you grow, and the more there is an element of diversification which comes along with it. We were well diversified across various geographies, which truly helped us during the lockdown timings. During the peak COVID months, which we were going through in the middle of 2020. If, for example, there was one particular city in Saudi Arabia which was going through lockdown, we were able to pick up the demand and shift our business from other places, and that only happened because we had made that conscious decision to grow to those cities and be able to operate from there. So that's how I look at it.
Thank you very much, JD. Very thorough insights and practical examples there. Adrian, your thoughts, growth for how does an entrepreneur approach growth? Hello, Adrian, can you hear me?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, so I was asking you the same question I've asked all the gentlemen here. How must growth be defined by an entrepreneur to ensure they stay ahead of the stagnation?
First, I would say that I had and still have a lot of struggles because all the time there is a new ceiling, and the best way to do it is to try first to apply personal growth techniques on yourself, because usually a startup can't grow higher than actually its founder. It's like if you have I don't know, if you're in the personal development, related to finance, there is a notion called your financial thermostat. It's like when you are powering um, uh, a heating tool, you can adjust the thermostat to a certain temperature. And if your own personal mindset, if your own personal financial thermostat is very low, your startup will never grow, no matter what you are doing. So first, you need to focus on yourself and to apply the kind of techniques which will be able, at least first in your mind, to take the startup at the level you want to take it. It's a mental process, and after that, everything else will be easier, because everything which is outside is a result of the things we are doing today or the things we've done in the past. You know, the current level of your startup is a result of what you did today, yesterday, last week, last month, and maybe last year. You know, so if you are pushing to change the result, you know, you are pushing a result. You need to push on yourself. You need to push the actions, the strategies, and everything which will generate as a result the amount you want to have at growth and scale with your startup. I hope that I was clear, because this is very important. First, there is a mental process, and next you apply it in the real world. But it's like, okay, how much money as a startup founder you want to have in the bank account, right? This amount. That one is a result. You know, you need to focus on what is before generating as an effect that money to come in the account from the investors, from sales combined. It doesn't matter. You know, not focusing on the results will work, but focusing on what has to happen before, so those results to be generated, is the correct strategy.
Thank you very much, Adrian. Basically, actions speak louder than words, and you believe in actions to be taken in ensuring growth. Yeah, thanks for that, Adrian. Harsh, we've come to midway of today's show. Any thoughts on growth strategies from the viewers?
Correct. So Adrian made a very interesting point again as well, right? So it comes down to the personal development as well, right? So you can obviously building the company, but it's also about personal self development and how you're developing yourself, how you follow the good habits to kind of constantly improve, and that is a very crucial element of growth, right? So that is an extremely important element to there. Additionally, if a startup is looking for growth, coming back to my original point, the first and foremost, the most important focus has to be to identify what the north star metric is there, right? So identify the thing which matters the most, and whose direct impact on that metric is going to lead to direct revenue generation for you. So identifying that is the number one thing which a startup should look at. Post that, once the metric is identified, the next focus should be primarily in understanding what are the different things which are which are once you try them out, and it can change, right? So growth it operates very funnily, right? It compounds on a regular basis. Just like most things in life, there's a compounding element to that. So you can kind of, what you can look at is identify some major changes which are required to kind of grow the business, and try each one of them. Don't be too biased that this will work, this will not work in the beginning. Try all of them, see which one is working, which one is not working, and monitor them on a regular basis. The most important thing is to kind of constantly monitor what is working, what is not working, doing the minor adjustments which are required, and constantly coming up with new innovations, new tactics to test out and see what the response is from the market, right? That is what a startup can look at for growing the business. And this can apply not just to early stage companies, even to late stage companies as well, right? So even if you have like $100,000 of revenue, this thing is applicable to you. And if you have like $100 million of revenue, the same principles are applicable to you. Only difference being, if you're a bigger company, you can do multiple experiments at the same time. If you're a smaller company, you have to start slowly and gradually, and kind of reach to that level, to a point where you can do multiple experiments at the same time. But the most important elements over here is you need to constantly try new things. Don't have too much bias, saying that this will work, this will not work. You need to be completely clear that all those biases are not there, and constantly experiment and see what new things are working for you and what are not working for you. There are multiple tactics which are there, like acquisitions are there, digital techniques are there, offline are there, other partnerships are there. There are literally infinite tactics which are there, which can be tried and tested and seen, which one is going to give you the result that you want for your business.
Thank you very much, Harsh. Thank you very much. We've come to the tail end of today's show, and I thank you for your feedback. And just before we go, I just want to encourage our audience. If you're watching us and you still have questions, just before we go, drop it in the comment box, and I'll get to read it and give you feedback. But then, just as we were going, Harsh, I'd like to throw the last round of questions to you. What are over the years, in the past few years, growth hacking has been a very popular term. What
Mhm.
growth hacking tricks or steps will you give to any company to ensure they stay above board?
Got it. So growth hacking is essentially, like it's like a combination of multiple disciplines, right? You need to have
Yes,
understanding of product, you need to have understanding of product, you need to have understanding of digital marketing, and a little bit of coding as well, right? You combine all of that and it creates this unique kind of discipline called growth hacking. So the idea is how you can make incremental changes in your products as well to kind of trigger that the product grows by itself, right? So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the conventional, the back in the old school when you had this Airbnb and Dropbox, how they were kind of growing, right? So Airbnb had come up with a very unique growth hack by integrating themselves with one of the largest directories in the US. So it was technically not a legal way which they had done, it was a completely illegal way. But they had done it very secretively. They had reverse engineered the processes back to that world, to that directory company which is there. They had reverse engineered that, and from what happened was that traffic's website, that directory website, was directly sending traffic into Airbnb. So that is essentially what growth hacking is. Essentially, how you can come up with innovative product strategies itself, how you can kind of create those growth metrics within the product itself, so that the product grows automatically, rather than you kind of first trying to acquire customers, then going through the entire process. How do you automate the entire thing? That is the essence of growth hacking, and it's applicable to small companies as well as to large companies alike.
thank you very much, Harsh. Thank you very much, Harsh. I jump over to Anuj. Anuj, this is like a parting shot for our viewers out there. What growth hacking measures would you try for startups and companies alike?
So the growth hack that I like to use is realize what stage you're in. That's more or less what my first question is whenever I'm sort of trying to come up with the best solution. Uh, as an early stage enterprise, as an early stage startup, we gotta realize that there's always gonna be a bigger fish out there. Until and unless you are one of the big tech, you're part of Google, Apple, Microsoft, or Facebook, there's always a bigger fish.
That's
And
right.
that's why the mantra that I always preach, complement, don't compete, comes into the picture. There's always a bigger company that's spending millions of dollars, that's spending 10x of what you're spending on your marketing efforts out there. There's a company that's spending much more of your resources than possible on coming up with their goals or reaching their sales target. If you're complementing their business, you can somehow piggyback off of their sales. As a restaurant, I can always deploy my marketing effort. If I run a restaurant in this era, rather than doing my own search engine optimization, my own social media marketing, I can always have a very small marketing team that's working very closely with the team at Uber Eats or with the team at Swiggy, and then sort of piggybacking off of their efforts, using them to amplify your own efforts. You got to realize that for everything, you don't have to do it all yourself. As an organization, as a founder, realize that when you're building something, you don't have to reinvent a calculator. if I'm building my website and I just have to add basic functions for addition or multiplication, I don't have to code an entire calculator. There are n number of applications out there. Use them, minimize your effort so that you can increase your ROI. The moment you start diluting that ROI is when you're sort of diluting that effort. So that's my growth hack to everyone out there. Use other companies out there, complement, don't compete. The moment you make that your mantra, you're gonna make sure that your ROI is always on top.
Awesome. I really like that feedback because I've spoken with a couple of teams and I told them the same thing. Just leverage on the successes of other complementary brands instead of reinventing the wheel. Awesome. JD, your thoughts on growth hacking measures that you would approve of or suggest?
So frankly, I agree with my fellow panelists on what they mentioned. It's about complementing, not competing. Although in reality, it's not always possible because as a startup, when you are trying to build something, you need to be the differentiator yourself as well. So as someone mentioned, that there are different stages of the life cycle of a business, and some as you kind of move up the ladder and you start having more clout on the market that you operate in, you are better positioned to complement on certain other uh, things which are available to you. Whereas in the very beginning, you might not have access or availability to those things. So again, it's very unique in terms of how each businesses operate. But clearly there are, as Anuj mentioned, you don't need to reinvent the wheel each time when someone starts, right? You can always, instead of starting from A, you can start from D to take it to the Z. So I agree on that point.
Okay. Thank you very much, JD. It's been great having you today. Adrian, what's your thoughts on useful growth hack techniques?
Okay, this is something pretty cool. Um, there is a legend saying that the ones who spend less on acquiring a lead are the most successful. But in reality, the companies which can spend the most on acquiring the best leads, they will win. But if you have a funnel, so you can get very fast the money back from advertising, it's called self-liquidating funnel. So at the front end, you recover the ad cost, or you have an upgrade, and even you become profitable at the front end or at the first upgrade. You can rotate this money as much as you can, so you can spend the most to acquire the best customers, and you will also make a profit. It's very different from the VC model. It works very well with downloadable products, with software. Even when you promote a free trial, automatically when the client takes the free trial, so you lose some money at the front end, right? You have the money from the advertising, but once that person is in buying mode, activating the free trial, putting the card there, there is a small button saying, okay, do you want a very special deal today? Or there is an upgrade for, do you want to buy something? And if the system is done, so it's like one click to purchase that, once the card is there, you can make, I don't know, 10-20% of the free trials will also buy this, and you can use the system, and it can be life changing. So don't forget, spend the most to acquire the best customers, but have a system to become at least at break even, or even a little bit profitable at the front end, or front end plus the first upgrade at the moment of sale. You can scale like crazy with a very small marketing budget because you rotate the same money all the time. It works like crazy. Not with every industry, but it can be applied to many businesses.
Thank you very much for that, Adrian. I mean, I know that came from a lot of experience and a lot of insight from you. Thanks. And I'm sure our audience will learn a lot from that. Frederick, over to you. I mean,
Yeah,
what?
I
Yeah,
yes. So I really like sales because ultimately that's how any kind of business grows. So I can really just agree with what Adrian just shared there, and it's quite easy to find the right customers as long as you're prepared to work for it. But my key conclusion in terms of growth hacking is one word: partnership. Think partnership in terms of everyone you meet. So your customer can be a partner. Your suppliers can be seen as partners. Your co-founder can be very much a partner. And with that mindset in hand, all of a sudden things start to happen. And you can also absolutely apply this in the digital world and online. So I can piggyback on someone else's brand. I can follow and use introductions. I can do this in so many ways if you just start to think partnerships, as simple as that.
awesome. Compliments, don't compete. Just like Anu said. Yeah. Thank you guys. It's been an awesome time today discussing how founders should look at growth. And I'm sure there's a lot to learn from everybody watching. If you have any last thoughts, maybe you should come out with it. If not, we've come to the end of today's show. And I look forward to having you guys on another topic, another day, another time. And until then, guys, have an awesome day. Adrian, have fun. And everyone, see you next time. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.